Blue Spike LLC versus Texas Instruments et al. Case number 612CV499, Plaintiff's Tutorial. Blue Spike LLC is managed by a single inventor, Scott Moskowitz. At the heart of this case are four of Mr. Moskowitz's patents. The patents in suit, collectively titled Method and Device for Monitoring and Analyzing Signals. Mr. Moskowitz's patents in suit describe how abstracts are derived from signals and then compared. An abstract is a representation of a signal, and it identifies that signal's characteristics. The abstract can be compared with other abstracts to determine if the abstracts are identical or related, or even separate versions of another signal, and so on. More on this later. These four patents are only a fraction of the 80+ patents Mr. Moskowitz has invented or co-invented. In this case, he is recognized as a co-inventor on each of the patents in suit. Mr. Moskowitz is a credentialed inventor. He earned 2 degrees cum laude from Wharton. He is a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEEE, senior membership in the highest grade available in this organisation, which advertises itself as the largest professional association for the advancement of technology. By IEEE standards, Scott Moskowitz has reached professional maturity and exhibited significant performance in his field. Mr. Moskowitz has been interviewed numerous times, including Forbes magazine, and is published in multiple languages. One of Mr. Moskowitz's patents was considered so cutting-edge that the National Security Agency considered protecting it with a secrecy order. Mr. Moskowitz brings a wealth of experience to the digital watermarking and fingerprinting technology space. Now, in order to fully appreciate the importance of Mr. Moskowitz's contributions, it is helpful to keep in mind the technological landscape at the time of his inventions. Beginning with 1990, HTTP and HTML were created, the languages of the World Wide Web, giving birth to Internet surfing as we know it. In 1991, the digital answering machine was invented. 4 years later, Mr. Moskowitz patented a pioneering watermarking technique. That same year, the DVD was invented, but not officially released until 1997. DVDs were novel for compressing large amounts of video data into a single disc. In 2000, Scott Moskowitz invented a novel approach to monitoring and analysing signals, the 472 patent, which is one of the patents in suit. 1 year later, Apple announced the iPod, an MP3 device. MP3s were revolutionary because they fit large music files into a small space. In 2005, MP3s, compressed audio files, were still not widely adopted and made up only 6% of digital music sales. These are just some of the technological breakthroughs of the 90s and early 2000s. They remind us of just how focused inventors were on fitting big ideas into small spaces and show us how far digital technology has progressed. Mr. Moskowitz was one of these inventors. Since the 1990s, Mr. Moskowitz grappled with a fundamental problem: how to identify signals, especially when those signals were very large. The longer a signal, the more difficult and time-consuming the comparison. Mr. Moskowitz solved this dilemma with a novel approach using signal abstracts. This is how his invention works. It starts with a signal. We'll call this signal the reference signal. The reference signal can be anything from a sound wave to a digital picture. The reference signal is analysed and its characteristics are identified. These characteristics are used to create an abstract. The abstract is usually much smaller in size. It may be compressed and uncompressed, but the abstract cannot be used to recreate the signal itself. The abstract is then stored in a database. This reference abstract can then be compared with other abstracts for a variety of useful purposes. For instance, when abstracts match, their associated signals match as well. Or the abstract comparison may show that two signals are related but not identical. Abstracts may even be used to show that two signals are versions of another signal. These operations improve upon digital fingerprinting techniques at the time of the invention, which merely pinpointed identical matches but could not identify ranges of similarity. Mr. Moskowitz's invention goes far beyond traditional fingerprinting. Notably, since Mr. Moskowitz invented single abstracting, the term digital fingerprint has often been misused to include broader techniques invented by Mr. Moskowitz. This abstract technique is important for a number of reasons, among those of its ability to match signals using only small identifiers of those signals, allowing for greater storage capacity and faster matching. Additionally, it improves upon traditional techniques of its time by not requiring an extra signal to be embedded in the original signal, such as a watermark, or provided alongside it, like a book title identifies the text of a story, but remains separate from the text itself. By the way of example, here is just one of the many uses of this patented abstracting approach. An abstract may be created from an author's audio or visual work, say a song or a video. This reference abstract can be compared against other abstracts of songs or videos distributed throughout the internet in search of pirated copies. Pirated copies of an artist's work may be quickly identified. An abstract could be used to find an identical copy, a clip, or even a different version of the same work. Mr. Moskowitz's abstracting technique improved upon traditional methods that either embedded a signal within the original, known as watermarking, or required a separate signal. These traditional techniques were too susceptible to circumvention. An abstracted song, however, had no separate signal to be monkeyed with. Thus, the abstract technique improved upon traditional approaches. In another embodiment, Mr. Moskowitz's invention can be used to identify a person. For example, an abstract may be created from the image of a face, finger, eye, or even veins beneath the skin. These abstracts may be compared against reference abstracts, each derived from a person whose identity is known. If the abstracts match, the person is identified. These are just some of the applications for Mr. Moskowitz's patented inventions that make up the patents in suit in Blue Spike LLC versus Texas Instruments et al.